I headed off to college, and I followed my heart to a college where it snowed. First time ever in snow. I mean, you fall in love with it. And back, as I said, computers were beyond rocket science. A computer class was for graduate students, and I was a freshman. But I enrolled in it, and I got an A+ in the class, and I ran every program I could. I thought, oh my God, if there's any computer sitting there that I can use, I want to use every bit of it possible. And there were people that they've written about at MIT that did the same sort of thing. The trouble is, I didn't realize they had a budget, and I ran our class 5 times over the budget. And it was more than tuition, the second highest out-of-state student tuition school in the country. So that pretty much ended my being able to go back for a second year at a school that I loved so much. While I was there, technology and fun have to merge together. You know, you shouldn't just be dry. When you're doing something good for other people, it can be fun to do as well. And we had a lot of fun with tricks in high school, and that was the year I built a little tiny TV jammer that could fuzz up the TV picture. And a friend of mine would hit the TV, and after a while people learned that if you hit the TV and tune the tuning control, it works, and if you move your hand away, it doesn't work. They figured out that where their body was mattered. And so I would get them to hold a foot in the air and a hand on the TV, and it would work, and they always thought it was technology. And you'll do a lot of things to inanimate objects you could never do to a human being, so I never got caught, so I was protected, but it was amazing to see how wild they went, and yeah, it was kind of like I should have had a degree in psychology. My next year, the college I had, a friend of mine had a copy of the key to the computer room, and we would go in at midnight and turn this computer that was just sleeping, an IBM 360 Model 40. We would turn it on and run programs at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, correcting programs, rerunning the punch cards through. It was just like any computer resource that was unused in the late wee hours. I just wanted to program more than anything else in my life. That was, you know, it was like a passion that was in me, and it wasn't something you had to pay me for. After that year, I didn't have money for a third year of college, so I went to work for a year. And when you're good in electronics, you never have to worry about what am I going to do in life? What am I going to do after college? I just always knew I'd have a good electronics job. So I got a job programming a computer in Sunnyvale. I walked in the door, and here was this computer, Tenet Corporation. Whoa, I applied for a job, and I wound up programming for a year. We sold 2 of those computers to the California Department of Motor Vehicles. And they worked for something like 10, 15 years, and then they got replaced by some hundreds of millions of dollars program with tandem computers, and it was a horrible disaster, and they didn't work after that. We had a great computer, but our company went bankrupt, and it was a shock to find out that a company can actually develop its product, have good operating systems, and computer and languages, and it still goes under. But while I was there, one of the executives got me some parts to build a computer of my own design. So I designed a computer, because I could never get the companies to give me the parts for my computer designs. So I got the parts and built this little board with a friend down the street, and he brought Steve Jobs over and said, you two have something in common. You both understand electronics and you like pranks. And we started sizing each other up on the sidewalk as to how much we knew and how much we'd done, and that started our 7-year best friendship. After a year at Berkeley, you know, Berkeley, I was kind of very influenced. My whole life, I was still trying to follow, we should be good to children. My father had taught me that, and he was a great educator. And in Berkeley, I learned a lot about cognitive development from having a girlfriend in cognitive psychology, and that the child's mind is at different stages, and there are ways to test it. God, to me, it was just like logic, the logic of a computer. And after that year at Berkeley, I needed money for my 4th year of college, so I took another year off to work to earn the money. You know, because that's just how I was. I mean, you earn the money, and then when you have the money, you do it. I get a lot of people just float around the world. They get a job somewhere. They kind of have no money, work for 6 months, and then they just travel off to some other exotic part of the world. And when they run out of money, they get a job again and earn some money, and then they travel to some other exotic place. Well, I was sort of like that, but it was more like in technology. Well, it was more like college, going to college. Well, after I took that year off, I got an amazing job offer. Hewlett-Packard had a calculator, the first scientific calculator, the HP35, and it changed the world. All the engineers that used slide rules before would no longer use slide rules. Slide rules wouldn't be built 2 years later or sold in this country. This calculator was so incredible. An engineer could type in numbers and see numbers in a display, and it was so much more accurate and fast and reliable. And I got brought in for an interview. They heard I was a good computer designer. I answered all the questions. I got made a job offer to design the calculators. The greatest product in the world. How lucky. When you get a lucky opportunity like that, don't ever turn it down. Eventually, our calculators were very special. They used a type of logic called reverse Polish notation. If you wanted to add two numbers, you had to enter both of the numbers. One of them would get saved for you. Enter both numbers and then say add them with a plus key. So it wasn't like you say 5 plus 3. You'd say 3, enter, 5, and then you'd say plus, and it adds the two of them. It was a little backwards, but when you write computer programs that use computer languages, you have to learn how to create this type of reverse Polish notation, it's called. So we thought our calculators were more exotic, more special, more computer science prone for the experts of the world. We had huge equations that I could usually never solve even with the Hewlett-Packard calculators. Then Texas Instruments comes along. And they came along in a later day and age when you could put more transistors on a chip and they could have a little bit more software inside of their calculator. And they used normal expressions with parentheses to tell you what order to do things in. And we snivelled and thought it was a toy because it has parentheses. The same way people would eventually say the Macintosh is a toy because it has pictures. And so I said I'd be the guinea pig, and with about 7 engineers around, I took this Texas Instruments calculator and looked at our big, huge equation on a big 5x7 card, and I started trying to figure out, how many parentheses to type before the part you're going to do first, and I realized I will never get it straight. No human being can ever remember that correctly. And I wiped my head clear. And this is what a lot of people have trouble doing. Once you've learned a skill, it's hard to say, what if I had no skill? Is there something else I can do? And what I did was I said, why don't I just type it in from left to right? And I punched it as fast as I could on the calculator, got the right answer the first time, and all the other engineers at Hewlett-Packard were stunned that I had done this on a Texas Instruments calculator. And I handed it to them. I said, just go left to right. Not one of them could I explain what left to right meant. They kept thinking, I have to use my skill of looking at the equation real deep and figuring out what part to do first. They just couldn't figure out this left to right stuff. I was the only one. So I think it's a good skill to encourage. Even in children, just clear out. Socrates said, clear your minds of all knowledge and try to build it up from the facts that you really do know and can prove. While working at Hewlett-Packard, I still loved electronics on the side at night. I would do my own little projects. I started the first dial-a-joke in the Bay Area. You've met a lot of people who have started companies, but this is the only time in your life you'll ever meet someone who started the first dial-a-joke in a regional area. I'm so proud of that. That was back in a day when it was illegal in the United States to own or purchase a telephone. It was illegal in the United States to own or purchase an answering machine for a dial-a-joke. So you had to rent the machine the theaters had, and it cost as much as your apartment rental. But I loved humor so much. I rented it and I did dial-a-joke. I told jokes on the telephone like this every day. And I was old Polak. I told Polish jokes. And the Polish American Congress incorporated, a corporation got upset and they were going to sue me. And I said, what if I changed them to Italian jokes? And they said, fine. This was before political correctness. So I saw Pong in a bowling alley, and it changed my life. It's like hearing a song, and you know that, whoa, the instant you hear that song, you're chilled, and your life has changed forever. There's a new type of music, or a new singer, or a new genre that, whoa, that has really captivated you, and you want to get more of it, and buy the song and buy more from that artist. Well, I saw Pong in a bowling alley, and I just drooled, and I wanted one so bad. Who could believe a television set could play a game back in the days of pinball games? It was so new, and it just said, oh my God, the world has just changed so much, and it even cost more than twice as much as a pinball game to play, and yet it was there and making money. So I said, you know what? I could never buy something like that. I had no money at all, but I could design anything in the world. Hewlett-Packard had a policy that an engineer could have it shipped out of the stockroom for something of their own design if the supervisor approved. And it was a great written policy. I actually had it written down, kept it in my desk. So I built my own Pong. All I had to do was be smart enough to design one. I designed one with very, very few parts, and around this time, Steve Jobs had gone off to Reed College. I drove him up there, and he was sort of very much the free-thinking hippie, more the counterculture type, the bare feet and seats and all that, and I was sort of in the center with my feet on the ground. And so Steve, he got a list of his classes, English, history, all the normal stuff you get your first year of college. He says, he turned to me and he was so sad. He said, look what they're telling me I have to take. I'm not going to take these. I'm here to learn Shakespeare and learn about quantum physics and all this incredible neat stuff. And he never went to any of the classes he was assigned.